Good afternoon. I hope you guys been having a fantastic week. I know I have, and by God, I can't believe we're already almost done with August. I feel like I was saying this with July. Shoot, it's like we blink and everything's already halfway gone. Soon we'll be in October, enjoying Halloween, then Thanksgiving, and by the time we know it, even in September, we'll probably be hearing Christmas music already. And I don't know about you, but I'm not prepared for that. We do not need Christmas music in September. We need Christmas music maybe in November, especially in December, but not beforehand. I don't know about you, but that's not what we need in life. But anyway, for today's episode, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about a web series that has entertained me for about 10 plus years and has survived 2 different company closures and is fully independent now. And that is amazing for a company, a web series, to survive 2 different company closures and to be independent. That is the dream, and that web series goes by the name of Death Battle. Now, for those of you who don't know, Death Battle is basically a web series, like its name, where it has its 2 hosts, Wiz and Boomstick, put 2 different characters from different universes, whether it be comic books, TV shows, movies, cartoons, anime, and even history, and have them fight in a death match. Some of the matchups they've had include Popeye versus One Punch Man, Hercules versus the Monkey Prince, Boba Fett versus Predator, Superman versus Goku, which I still believe is rigged, Mario versus Sonic, and many other battles. And how each match is decided would come down to each of the characters' feats, such as show of strength, speed, power, abilities, and etc. from their potential. They also make sure that each character, when they fight, would be at their peak. So there's not really someone saying, hey, they didn't turn into this mode and they would have won. They make sure that all characters are fighting in their ultimate. So if they have an ultimate form, you better believe they turn that on during this fight. And of course, during one of their videos, they would explain who the character is, their history, and some of the calculations behind their feats. They kind of get all sciencey about it. I don't know how accurate a lot of the science is, but I mean, it's for entertainment, so I just go for the ride. And one thing I like about the show is it can get really sciencey, which is nice, especially for those who aren't really informed on how powerful a feat actually is, and the way they break it down is really nice, especially when they show the research and stuff like that. Now, Death Battle has an interesting history in itself. As stated before, it has survived 2 different company closures and continues to survive. So now, talking about the origin of Death Battle, it started about 14 years ago, back in 2010, and it was started by a man named Ben Singer, who was a part of a YouTube channel called Screw Attack for all of those above the age of 15, where they would make so many different web series through Screw Attack. It was basically an entertainment website and had its own YouTube channel which specialized in video game entertainment, animation, and other shows. Screw Attack was founded back in 2006 by, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this guy's name, Craig Skistimus. I'm just going to go by Craig. That'll make things so much easier. And Tom Hanley. It became a popular channel, especially since it had shows like The Angry Video Game Nerd, Top 10 Video Game Vault, and many others. You probably heard of The Angry Video Game Nerd. That's still going on today, so this actually came from that. And it became popular and teamed up with other companies in the entertainment business like YouTube, Game Trailers, IGN, Escapist Magazine, and Revision 3. And it was eventually bought by Fullscreen, who also at that time bought Rooster Teeth and made Screw Attack a subsidiary of Rooster Teeth. And eventually they actually merged both Screw Attack's website and Rooster Teeth's website, but still calling it Rooster Teeth. And in 2019, Rooster Teeth actually rebranded the YouTube channel of Screw Attacks into Death Battle because Death Battle had become so popular that it needed its own channel. So people can always look them up so they didn't have to go through Screw Attack's YouTube channel just to find the playlist for Death Battle. So you can see how Death Battle was still popular while its former company faded away in obscurity. And as you can see, Death Battle has had a very interesting history so far. Now, going back to Death Battle, during its first season, Ben had partnered up with Revision 3 to host Death Battle on their website, and of course helped with sponsorship deals because doing all of this is not cheap. The early episodes of Death Battle were very short. Most of the time they were less than 10 minutes, and the animation for these episodes were mostly 2D sprite animation, which is basically the type of animation you would get from like the Game Boy Advanced or the very early gaming. Very pixelated, if you will. It was cheap, but it was an easier animation style to do. Their first Death Battle was Boba Fett vs. Samus, which would appear on December 6, 2010. Episodes for the first 2 seasons would be very sporadic when it comes to the release, with there being only a couple of weeks to months between episodes. During this time, Death Battle would actually end its partnership with Revision 3. A lot of speculation around this was because Revision 3 wanted Ben to make episode after episode and had them drop the season format that they wanted. They just wanted them to kick out as many episodes as they could. This became time consuming and impacted Ben's health negatively. After Revision 3 was dropped, Death Battle going into season 3 would have seasons with a consistent schedule for an episode every 3 weeks. The 2 weeks before every episode, they would introduce who would be fighting, with each week airing clips of the history of the characters and so on and so forth before they got to the actual battle. In season 7, they had the episodes come out bi-weekly instead, and this became the format for the show going on. And this is how they released the episodes. So Monday, one character would air where they would explain his history and some of the feats. Then on Wednesday of the same week, they of course would air the other character's analysis. And then the following Monday, the full episode would premiere. And for that Wednesday, when the episode would premiere, there would be no episode, and you would have to wait until the following Monday to learn who and what the history of the next character was. This became the standard moving forward. And during their journey, their animation had improved to the point where they were able to do 3D animation and even a couple of episodes that were live action. One particular episode, which is my favorite, is basically Daredevil versus Nightwing. One of the best live action fights ever, and it was fantastic for a web series to get to that point when in the beginning they were doing sprite animation. As they progressed, besides the animation getting better, their episodes would improve in quality, and we would learn more about the hosts, Wiz and Boomstick. We learned that Boomstick was a redneck who loved guns, beer, and violence, while Wiz, one of the other hosts, is a mad scientist who would do almost every calculation, every complicated science doohickey in all the episodes, and he also had a metal arm. As each episode aired, we would learn more and more about the backstory behind the hosts. Like Boomstick was basically abandoned by his father who joined the army. And one thing that's actually kind of funny is because they were owned by Rooster Teeth, it was hinted so many times, in even an episode where they had a Red versus Blue episode, that Sarge, one of the characters in Red versus Blue, was actually Boomstick's father. I know that Rooster Teeth is no longer around, but I still believe that is canon, and no one else can tell me anything different. So Boomstick was raised by his mother. The writing for these characters was fantastic, and it made them feel real. And in 2017, they became even more so because instead of being just cutouts and mostly voices from above, they were given actual animated bodies, and we got to see them interact with the world. It was honestly interesting because the first time I saw them, for a while, I really couldn't picture exactly what they would look like. Sure, we got cutouts and stuff like that, but they were just basically stand-ins for what they would actually end up looking like. So to see them actually not in person, but in animated form, seeing them interact, it was just really great, and it made Death Battle feel more real than before. And of course, with Death Battle getting more and more popular, they would also expand their show with the Desk of Death Battle, where the character Jocelyn the intern would do the research no one wanted to, and basically gave us weird and out there history on some of the characters and IPs. Like, they went ahead and talked about the death of Archie Comics, Superman's weird and forgotten powers, and etc. They also had another type of death battle called DBX, which basically was a shorter format, and instead of deciding who would win by the facts, it was actually decided by fan voting. And the first season of DBX was hosted by Boomstick. Then a new character was introduced called the Ringmaster. And as the show began to rise, nothing seemed to stop them because they were raising money. They had so many fans voting for who they wanted to appear in future death battles. Actually, for season 11, they did an entire voting process so the fans could vote on who they wanted. They actually had an episode that people wanted where it was Tom from Tom and Jerry versus Wile E. Coyote from Looney Tunes. And honestly, that would be a fantastic one to see. I would have loved that because honestly, those two are one of the most chaotic cartoon characters ever, almost always losing. So to see these two losers fight against each other would have just been entertainment, especially since they're both cartoons and have survived basically everything. And some of the other death battles that were voted upon was Asura versus Kratos, Columbo versus Light Yagami, and many others as well. But on March 24th of 2024, it was announced that Warner Brothers Media would be shutting Rooster Teeth down. And it was devastating news because Rooster Teeth, who was on a downward spiral in itself, was starting to make a comeback by producing more of its animated series through its other IPs, and basically everyone thought that they were coming back up, that they were reviving themselves from the dead. But with this news that Warner Brothers was shutting down, everyone who was looking forward to RWBY, Camp, and other animated shows that Rooster Teeth produced just found out that it was no longer the case, that their favorite animated shows were no longer happening. And sadly, that also meant that the fate of Death Battle was unknown. And Death Battle itself announced that it was going on indefinite hiatus because they were going to try to shop the show around to see who was interested in buying them. And you got to remember one thing. Making Death Battle wasn't cheap. They had to basically hire animators, making sure that editors were hired, voice actors, writers, and whoever else they needed to make an episode. So they needed to make sure that whoever they went with would be able to fund them. And some of the other Rooster Teeth IPs weren't so lucky to be able to find somebody to fund them. The only other Rooster Teeth IP that I know has found a new home is RWBI, which is now with Viz Media. But on July 25th, it was announced that Ben Singer had acquired the rights to Death Battle and would be producing a new season of Death Battle. And he basically said that since they're on their own, they don't have the benefits of a corporate sponsor being able to fund them. So they needed the fans' help and put a link for a Kickstarter to help fund their project, because again, making Death Battle was not cheap and they needed funds so they can move forward, hopefully getting some sponsorship to sponsor some episodes and be able to move forward as a company. And they had a goal when they first announced it, starting August 1st, of $75,000. And let me tell you, within 30 minutes, that was already blown out of the water. They had already hit over $200,000 in funding. And they had released other goals and prizes for new episodes as they, of course, reach new goals and everything else. And of course, they had rankings within Kickstarter. So if you if you donated $50, you were part of this group, and they would give you like a thank you card or whatever. And as, let's say, you spend $500 with them, donating to them, they would allow you to pitch an idea for a death battle and so on and so forth. And all, of course, these prizes were pretty cool. And especially since you knew that these guys were going to make more Death Battle. And for a lot of people, including me, this was a great form of entertainment because there was nobody else trying to do this or had the funding to. And now, as I make this episode, Their Kickstarter has gone through the roof. I think they're almost at $1 million of funding, which means they have guaranteed at least 10 episodes being made for this season, which is phenomenal. And I am looking forward to seeing what these characters and who is going to be fighting, because while they have already announced that some of the characters or some of the fights that were promised before are happening, they have also promised other fights but haven't revealed exactly what they're going to be, which I'm excited for because I trust Death Battle and I know they're going to do a phenomenal job picking who's going to go against who. Even though in some of the past their death battles have been very questionable, like the Full Metal Alchemist versus Avatar The Last Airbender, or like Venom versus Bane, I really hope that's not the case because those are like very easy fights to determine who would win. But again, I trust them and I cannot wait for the next episode of Death Battle that's going to be airing in September, I think. Or no, I think it's airing in October. But either way, I'm super excited and I can't wait for the episodes that are guaranteed to us this upcoming season, with potentially more, as their Kickstarter doesn't end until August 31st. So there is still time for more money to be raised for them to make even more episodes and to guarantee that they will be back for a second season. And I really hope they are, and I really hope that they're able to get more and more funding and just grow, because they honestly, Death Battle has grown so much since the 2000 age, and they've worked with so many great creators. One creator they've worked with and who is actually doing the Kratos versus Asura fight is Devil Artemis, who makes his own web series called Cell Versus, which is a fantastic web series which I love watching, and he is funny. It's definitely not for kids. Do not let the kids watch that, but it's just one of those things where if I got a few minutes, the episodes are usually less than 5 minutes. Sometimes they'll go more for 10. It's just I can relax, laugh, and just have a good time. But anyway, that's it for this week's episode and my spew on Death Battle and how much I love them and how much I cannot wait to see them succeed, because again, it's everybody's dream to chase what they want, to be able to do what they love and make money too. So to see others succeed is just amazing and gives me hope that I would be able to do so as well. But again, that's it for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoy learning more about this web series that has survived so much, and I look forward to seeing it survive for many more years. So I'll see you guys next week as I get to talk about the next entry in one of my favorite movie franchises, and that is Alien Romulus. So if you haven't watched the movie, I definitely recommend watching it, because I'm going to be talking about the movie, spoilers and all, my opinions on it, and give you my score on what I think the movie rates as. So I'll see you guys next week for a fantastic episode. Sayonara, see you later, and have a good one. Goodbye.